There was nothing ordinary about this year's Witness Theater group. Each week we were met with surprises, some that we welcomed, and some that were jarring reminders of how fragile life can be. We began with a robust group, ready to take on the unknown. But as the weeks went on, we were confronted with challenges. A fall that kept someone out for 3 months. A member who fell ill and could not return. The synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh that echoed with memories of the past. And then Sally Fliegelman, a vibrant member of our group who passed away suddenly just as we were getting to know her. Even just this week, we were confronted yet again with tragedy that begs the question, what do we do now? Instead of becoming stuck in the why, in our weekly sessions, we spoke honestly about our fears and our grief and how we would move forward. We asked out loud, what is the answer to evil, to sorrow, to death? And we found it in the lives and legacies of the survivors. The answer is community, love, and most importantly, life. But not just life in the sense of being alive. Rather, life in the sense of active living. Seizing the moment. Taking advantage of every day. Life as a form of art. One that is ever evolving. That improves with practice. That offers color and texture. One that is influenced by others and influences others. Life as a form of art that offers an opportunity to leave behind an immortal piece of ourselves. This is the kind of living that we witness in Miriam, Clara, Sally, Amelia, and Fred. This is the kind of living that made us want to better ourselves and create our own life art. And so we have created a show that reflects this extraordinary process. It is one that features students who have never been on stage before. One in which a grown woman speaks to her parents who have passed. One in which a survivor plays the role of her own mother. One that features the daughter of a survivor as narrator of her mother's story. And most significantly, one that has been inspired by a professional painter and centers around the metaphor of the blank canvas. We invite you to notice how the canvas evolves in each scene, how it begins blank with potential behind each storyteller and ends colored with experience in the hands of the listeners. We invite you to wonder who in our show is the canvas and who is the painter. We invite you to watch the artists of the past and the present joining together on stage to envision the art of the future. We invite you to witness the art of living.
לשאול ההווה כילד ההולך לו לאיבוד כפות ידיים מושטות מבקשות את העזרה להמשיך איתך את המסע הפורחים כאילו איבדו את זהותם מחפשים עוד קרן אור שתעזור עוד לגימה קטנה של מים ממעייני החוכמה תביא להם את התקווה הרים ראשי
A blank canvas is a gift.
It is an invitation to explore.
A reflection of the self.
A blank canvas is innocence.
It is an open door.
A fresh start.
A blank canvas is scary.
It is vulnerable.
And feels heavy.
A blank canvas is a challenge. It portrays strength.
And is waiting for color.
A blank canvas is open to interpretation.
It is an opportunity to learn.
A journey.
A blank canvas is a place for a community to gather.
Arim Roshi Esa Enai Arim Bamerchakim Bekoli Yishama Kizeaka Kitfilat Adam Velibi Yikra Me'ayin Yavo Esa enai arim bamerchakim vekoli shama kizeaka kitfilat adam velibi yikra me'ayin yavo ezri
In the beginning, life was wonderful, a blank canvas filled with opportunity.
My name is Clara. I was born in Vinica. I was the eighth child from 9 kids. My life was full with love and laughter. As my mother always said to me, I was one of my father's favorite child.
My name is Fred, but growing up in Prague, I was called Fritz. My mother died when I was young, but my father directed my brother and me to become resourceful, to be cultural and creative.
My mother, Sally, was called Sala. She was born in Poland, and as a child, she loved animals. She had a dog named Mushka and loved to play in the yard with her family's ducks and chickens.
My name is Amelia. I was born in Odessa. I was only child in my family. My father died. I went to school. I have friends. I make mistakes. I was a regular kid.
My name is Miriam, but I was called Mania. My family lived in Poland. We were religious but modern. We were 5 kids, and our life revolved around Shabbat.
But the conversations around the table implied darker shades of color beginning to creep onto life's canvas.
You're overreacting, Mata. We don't need to leave. The Germans have always been good to the Jews. They need us to help them fight their war.
Don't you see, Razel? This time it's different. And I'm not going to risk our children's lives for the sake of staying in our home. We need to leave as soon as possible.
Ugh, politics again? My father always wants to talk politics at the dinner table.
Fritz, get out from under there. You're supposed to be the older brother. If Tommy can sit and discuss Hitler with me, then so can you. Now get up and have a seat.
But Papa, we keep saying the same thing. He's crazy, a power-hungry scoundrel. He's just trying to stir up national pride by scaring all of us. How can one man think that he can conquer the entire world?
My father is leaving for the Polish army next week. He said he has to go and that he doesn't have a choice, but he promised he'd be back home soon.
If it comes to pass that you and the children are in danger, you must leave. Don't think twice, just run.
Have faith, David. It'll be okay.
Shh. No one knows I'm under here. My mother and my Aunt Clara don't like to talk about things when I'm listening. But I know exactly what's going on. They're talking about leaving. But I'm not scared. I'm not going anywhere.
I'll go look for Amelia in a minute, Sarah. I'm just finishing up this hem. But really now, I don't see why everyone is talking about leaving. You've read the papers. A war will never happen in our territory. We have a pact with the Germans. We are protected.
Our kitchen used to be so loud and lively. Now my mother and sister prepare dinner without speaking, and the silence is louder than words.
My father won the argument, and we boarded a crowded train with hardly any clothing or food. We had no idea where we would end up.
Our community was too rooted in Prague, so my father felt obligated to stay. But he acquired false papers for me, and I was sent to live on a farm about 40 kilometers away.
With no man left in our home to protect us, my mother, my brother, and I were rounded up on a freight train and deported to Siberia.
We were convinced that our country would remain at peace, and we closely followed the news from overseas, thankful that it was not our motherland at war.
We went on with our lives, and the anti-Semitism around us grew and grew.
Life's canvases would never be the same.
If you were painting a picture of my life right now, will be more beautiful than I ever imagined it could be. But to tell you the truth, everything that's beautiful in my life now makes me think of horrors of my survival during the Holocaust. For example, today, when I put on my shoes, it reminds me of that day when I was 14 years old and sent out of the ghetto to find bread. I returned and the whole place was empty.
Outside the ghetto, there is so much life, so much to see. I allow myself to forget the worry I feel for my brothers who are taken away. To where? We don't know. And since I am blonde and speak perfect Polish, I can pretend, just for a little while, that my life is not the hungry, fearful existence it has become in the Jaslo ghetto. But when I return back to our tiny apartment, I find that my family is gone. I search every room, but all I find are our things. And then I notice my boots sitting beside my bed. I leave them, sure I'll be able to return for them if I need them. And so begins the search for my family.
I knew it was not safe for me to be in empty ghetto alone, and I looked for Polish people who would hide me. Today, when I see my neighbors, and I think about all the kind of people who let me hide in their home. But one day, when I learned that neighbors can be also very cruel.
I'm hiding in a cellar with my cousin Genya. We go wherever people take us. A cellar, an attic, under a bed. I am consumed with sadness. Just last week, I found out that the neighbors who were hiding my mama and my younger sister Rosa denounced them to the Gestapo. I would say that I am numb with sadness, but I can feel this like a knife in my heart.
I never saw them again. They were shot in mass killing in 1942. And my brothers who had been taken away were also not seen again. My father went into hiding, and my cousin and I ended in attic of righteous Polish farmer Wojciech Twardzinski. You know, when I make Shabbat now, I look at my table, on my family, and I think about those years in attic when they didn't even have piece of bread.
Genya, you have to eat this. Who knows when the next piece will come, and you're losing more and more strength each day. You're going to die of hunger.
So, would that be worse than this? Could it possibly be worse to die than to sit here all day wondering when we will be caught?
Shut! Don't talk like that, Genya. You will see. The war will be over soon, and we will find our families. And until then, we have each other. I will be like your mother.
You are only 14 years old, and you're only 2 years older than me. What mother? We are both orphans here in this attic.
But there is one difference. I have the will to live, and I will make sure that that will is enough to keep us both alive. Now eat, and afterwards we will take a few steps to make sure that our legs still work.
I was just a child, but I cared for Genya as I was an adult. She was so depressed, but she was all I had. And I kept her alive as best as I could. Now, when I get into my cozy bed every night, I think about how uncomfortable we were. The summer was boiling hot, and in winter we thought we would die for cold.
It is midnight. Genya's in a deep, dreamless sleep that somehow I will turn to. But I cannot sleep because it is ice cold and I can't stop shivering. The Twardzinskis have a cow in their house next to their kitchen. I will lay down next to her in hopes that I can sleep for an hour or two. Maybe I'll find a piece of potato or carrot from her last meal. Oh, Mama, if this is how I'm going to live the rest of my life, I don't know how much longer I will last.
We lived like that 2 whole years, freezing, starving, and scared for our life. In 1944, when Russia approached, Genya was taken to another home, and my mother and I ran into the forest. Today, when I use umbrella, I remember when it was running in forest. This was even worse than attic.
Papa, how much longer will we be in this bunker? I cannot stand these heavy, wet drops of water. Each drop is like a drop of torture. I think I'll go crazy under here.
Shh! Manya! It is too dangerous outside. There are Germans all over the forest who would love to get their hands on more Jews.
But didn't you say they were losing the war?
Even if they are losing, they will not stop until they are completely pushed back by the Russians. We need to stay here and as cold and hungry as we are.
I don't know what's worse, the cold and hunger or the drops of water. I think they'll be the end of me.
After 6 terrible months, the war was over, and we returned to my aunt's house in Jaslo. I had lost my beautiful mother, my 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and almost all of my community. There were not Jews in Jaslo, at all, but we decided to stay. Somehow, we couldn't leave.
I'm a married woman now. My husband Herschel is a survivor too, and we are living with our children in Yasso. We are the only Jewish family here in Yasso, but no one speaks of it. No one speaks about the war either. My 4 children don't even know what happened here just a decade ago. And although each year we think we should leave Poland, somehow we're still here. Come, Felicia, it's time for Kol Nidre.
I love coming to shul here in Tarnov. It's far enough away from Yasso that we get to stay in a hotel for the high holidays. And we're the only children in shul, so everyone fusses over us. Mama, why do they look so sad? And why do they keep lighting candles? There must be 1,000 candles here.
Those are Yizkor candles for their relatives who died.
How can there be just 25 people in the minyan and so many candles?
It is not for now, Felicia. You will learn when you're older. Come, let's go in for prayers.
You raised your children in Yaslo and did not leave until 1982. You and your children still speak about why you didn't leave and how growing up in post-war Poland affected their childhoods.
But one thing you all say for certain. Today, when you look at your life and your family, you know that Hitler did not win. They are your victory.
Mijn brownstone in Parkslow, my big fluffy bed, my neighborhood supermarket, and the faces of my grandchildren. What can I say? I am 90 years old now, and portrait of my life is beautiful one. And since my past still lives in my present, I remind every day to make sure I enjoy everything that life has to offer.
Sometimes I think maybe I'm not a survivor because I didn't go to the camps or live not in hiding. But tell me, every day I dream of what my life could have been because war absolutely tore my life apart.
We are on a boat. To where? I don't know. My parents don't know. I don't think anybody on this boat knows. We just followed the crowd from the wagon to the train and now to the boat. We are herded like animals everywhere we go. But my father says this is the only way we will stay safe. But already my sister Sonichka and I are sick with pneumonia. How could this be safer than staying in Kiev?
No, Sonichka. Please, God. No!
He grabbed Sonichka's body from my mother's arm and threw her into the water.
Mama, I felt so helpless. I wanted to hug you and make you better, but I knew I could not make you happy. I didn't know if you would ever be happy again. We are on a train with refugees who escaped from so many countries. My mother says that it is dangerous back at home, but that in Uzbekistan we will be safe. But my father is sick with typhus. How could this be safer than going back home?
No, Mato. I can't lose you two. Please, God. No.
When we arrived in Tashkent, my father was taken to the hospital where he died. And I never know where his grave is.
Papa, you were the light of my life. I was your favorite child. I wish that my love had been enough to keep you alive. My brother Zalman joined the Soviet army, so we were finally given a place to live after sleeping on the streets for so many weeks. But don't be fooled. This is no home. It is a small cement room in a cement box filled with other cement rooms full of poor people and refugees. My mother insists on locking me in every day when she goes out to work for 10, maybe 12 hours. She says I will be safer if I cannot go out. But I am lonely and starving and so bored I could die. How could this cold, dark prison cell be safer than the colorful world outside my window?
Clara. Look, I got some bread today.
But what will you eat, Mama?
Don't worry about me. Look at you. You need it more than I do. You're just skin and bone. Not even a piece of meat. A whole bone. You're like a skeleton with no hair. Like from the concentration camps.
She sacrificed herself for me, and I feel guilty. She had lost so much in her life.
Mama, you had always told me, if not for me, you would have killed yourself long ago. Sometimes I tried to help, but I seemed to always make things worse for you. I listened to the people who passed by my door every day. I could hear kids playing and parents talking. I'm so lonely. I wish I could go out and speak to them. My mother says it's not safe for Jewish children to go out because people hate Jews. But trapped in this room, I'm starting to hate my own self. How could this solitude be safer than being with people, even if they call me names?
Okay, we have something.
What is it?
It's something you'll love.
Something a Jewish girl could never own.
Oh yeah? Well, I have money. I bet it's worth more than whatever you have.
You're a liar, like all Jews.
If you really have the money, show us through this crack in the door.
It's right here under my mattress.
Okay, let's trade. We'll sell you our treasure for that money.
I'll show them.
Great, we'll be right back with the prize.
Clara, what did you do to the mattress? Why did you move it? Where is the money? Clara, where is the money I've been saving?
Don't worry, Mama. We're going to get a treasure worth much more than that money.
You must have made us stay, you troublemaker. How could you do this to us? Oh my God, I'm going to kill myself. Clara, what did you do?
She cried all the time. Sometimes I thought she really hated me. But now, when I look back, I understood.
You had lost everything, Mama. Your children, your husband, and your beautiful life. But you still made sure that I was safe and loved and cared for during those awful years in that cement room. You kept me safe by loving me, Mama. You loved me more than anything in the entire world, and I miss you.
Clara, the war ruined your beautiful life in Viennitsa forever, and yet you still had the courage to move forward.
You remained in Uzbekistan long after the war and bravely tackled challenge after challenge. Your career in law documents and the memory of your father's generous spirit inspired you to forge papers for the Jews fleeing Uzbekistan in the mid-1980s.
And in the spirit of your mother, whom you lost to cancer when she was just 60, you raised your own 2 sons in Uzbekistan with the fierce love that you would witness in your mother. You emigrated here with your 2 sons in 1989. Finally, you didn't have to search for safety anymore.
During the war, my only safety was in my parents. Their love kept me alive, and even after they died, that love lived into me. This is the love I give today to my sons and their wives and my 6 beautiful grandkids. Now my life is filled with beautiful opportunities and color. I feel happy, I feel safe, and I feel loved.
During my mother's time in witness theater, she was known for her motto, "Take your time and hurry up." On the one hand, she knew how important it was to slow down and enjoy life. But on the other, she knew that life would not last forever. Perhaps somewhere in her heart, she knew that she needed to make the absolute most of her time with these students. Because after 6 of some of the happiest weeks of her life, she was suddenly gone. But I soon discovered that she had left behind 16 young people who were determined to take their time, to learn the rest of her story and to hurry up and share it with you.
Mama, when will we be there already? I'm so hungry. Can't I just eat the piece of bread you've been saving?
No, Sala. I need that piece of bread to use as a pacifier for Alex. Otherwise, he'll not stop crying.
Will we at least be able to eat it when we get there?
Yes, Sala. We'll have plenty of food when we get there. But listen, just in case we get separated, I wrote your name on this shmata. Wear it around your neck so you never forget who you are or where you come from.
Okay, Mama.
Have faith, darling. It'll be okay.
They were headed to Siberia on a Russian transport. At the time, she was in despair at having been deported out of her hometown of Chekhov, Poland. Little did she know that she would lose all the family that had been left behind.
Mama, where are we?
I'm not sure. Somewhere in Russia? Shh, Alex. Shh, Sala, don't let go of my hand or you'll get lost in the night.
Papa, I miss Papa.
Papa's in the army, Sala. He's a hero, fighting for our country.
But how will he find us? He will go looking back in Chekhov.
Have faith. He will find us. But look, there's a candle in the window. Let's go see if someone will let us in for the night.
My mom's mother boldly knocked on the door, sharing that she was the wife of a soldier, and was given a small room with some straw to sleep on. The woman was harsh and refused to share her food, but at least they had a roof over their head.
Quick, Sala. Before you drink the soup, go fill this cup with water from the basin. The woman must not know we took her soup. She must never know. Do you understand?
Yes, Mama.
My grandmother, my mother, and her brother lived in that house for all the years of the war. Their mother would sneak soup to them as often as she could. It was the only food they had.
Papa, I miss you. When will you come home already? I think you will not recognize me anymore. I am 8 years old now, taller and thinner, and so terribly sad. You will be looking for my smile, but you won't be able to find it. I've forgotten how to smile, because all I do is sit here all day at this window, waiting for you, and crying. Mom says to have faith, but with every birthday that passes, I lose more and more hope that you will return, or that we will ever go back home.
My mom's father managed to find them when the war was over, but they had no place to go and ended up on the streets for many weeks, eating food from stables and trash cans.
Here, Yetta. This looks like we can eat it. Looks like bread. Sala, Alex, take a piece.
David, I hope this bread doesn't make us as sick as the bread from last week.
After a minute of chewing, they realized they were eating tar. Mom said that this was not an unusual occurrence in those days. After a year on the streets of Russia, they returned to Poland, only to discover that nobody had survived, and they could not get back into their home. My mother was put into an orphanage in the Fernwald DP camp while her parents went to work.
My mother told me the war is over. But how can that be if I'm sitting here in this barbed wire camp? If the war is over, why can't we go home? If the war is over, when will I be able to see my parents again? Maybe they will never come back for me. Maybe I will never go home. I have no tears left to cry. My eyes are all dried up. I take excellent care of my brother Alex. That's the only thing that makes me feel better. Sometimes. Although there are some nice children around here to play with, I don't get too close for fear that they will disappear one day, just like my parents did. Will I ever be happy again?
Sally was eventually reunited with her parents, but the scars of the war never left her, and like so many children, she suffered from the trauma of those years well into her later years.
My mother lived with constant anxiety that something bad would happen to the people she loved. And yet, when my sister was born, my mother named her Faith, so she would never forget how her faith kept her alive during the war. Sadly, my mother has finished painting her canvas, but she has left behind a priceless piece of life's art. And although we have watched this canvas become layered with color and texture over the years, we are now beginning to observe it and enjoy it from a completely different angle. My family and I are just so thrilled to be able to share this piece of her artwork with you.
Amelia is truly a giant of a person. She is larger than life in her quest for knowledge, her creativity, and her willingness to take risks. She is an exuberant, charismatic firecracker in a tiny package. When we asked Amelia what her life's canvas looks like, she said,
As a zebra, black and white.
Black for during the war and white for after the war.
Aunt Clara, hurry up! Let's go, we're gonna miss it!
Slow down, Milочка. You will both fall down.
Мужчины и женщины отнесутся с должным сознанием к своим обязанностям, к своему труду. Весь наш народ теперь должен быть сплочен и един, как никогда. Каждый из нас должен требовать от себя и от других дисциплины, организованности, самоотверженности.
It is June 22nd, 1941. I am 10 years old and it's my summer vacation. My mother and my Aunt Clara have suddenly decided that we have to leave Kiev. But why would I want to leave all of this? We have to stay and support the motherland. If we must go to war, then our army must triumph.
But Amelia's mother and aunt knew better than to stay. They knew that if the Nazis succeeded in advancing into Russia, the Jews would be in grave danger. So they joined the government evacuation to the east.
The Germans are bombing the river and we had to run off the ferry. We are hiding under a bush. I am scared, but I welcome the fresh air and the respite from the crowded ferry. Even though these branches cannot protect me from a bomb, I feel safe with my mother's hand in mine.
Be closed, my boy. Be closed.
It was a long and treacherous journey with tens of thousands of evacuees and constant bombing. From the ferry, the evacuees were boarded onto trains. There was no schedule and no destination.
Mama, can I get off the train just for a minute? We've been stopped here for hours. Who knows when we'll move again? I just want some fresh air. I'll go stand right over there where those children are playing. You can watch me the whole time.
Absolutely not, my dear. Absolutely not. You may not leave my hand. Well, I lost you, and you never survive with me, Milочка.
As the Nazis continued to advance, the Soviet government kept pushing the evacuees further east. No one knew where they were going or when the journey will end. Finally, after months of fleeing, Amelia and her family settled in Uzbekistan.
Mama, how long will we have to wait to get our bread?
Milочка, be scared, do not scared. Don't worry. Be patient.
I don't like to stand and wait. I like to always be moving. But I guess I shouldn't complain. I'm no worse off than anyone else. I don't have shoes, but none of the kids do. I'm hungry, but all of the kids are. My mother has no husband, but none of the mothers do. How can I feel miserable if everyone has the same as me? Anyway, Mama says misery will only pull me down, and I like to always stand tall.
For 3 years, Amelia, her mother, and aunt lived in Uzbekistan. Life was fraught with starvation and disease, but Amelia was able to go to Russian school, and her mother and aunt were able to work. Amelia said this was not a life of freedom, but it was one of peace.
We came back to Odessa. The war is not yet over, but Odessa was already liberated. My mother was worried about our family. We came back to find one cousin. And that's all. My mother's siblings, my father's siblings, my cousins, our friends, all gone. I'm 13 years old, and I can understand that they are all gone. But I cannot understand how this could happen, how such evil could exist in the world. But my mother does not let me ask questions. We go on with our lives, and she protects us from sadness, telling me to always look forward and never look back.
Mila, stand tall. Doesn't matter what's going on in the world. You need to practice your poetry for school. Now listen and repeat after Mama.
Александр Пушкин, Евгений Онегин, письмо Татьяны. Я вам пишу. Чего же более? Что я могу еще сказать? Теперь я знаю, вашей воле меня презрением наказать. Но вы к моей несчастной доле хоть каплю жалости храня, вы не оставите меня.
Oh, Mama, I love you.
Amelia never let the darkness of the past seep into the brightness of her present. She was always moving forward and never looking back.
Amelia became a librarian, then a teacher, and eventually an engineer. After emigrating to America, she studied history and language and still takes classes today.
Amelia is always looking for opportunities to learn. Even in our witness theater group, Amelia makes sure she hears and understands every detail in everyone's stories.
Amelia inspires us to live in the white and never to dwell on the black. And while she now has trouble seeing and hearing, the lines of Amelia's life's canvas are as sharp as ever.
I always look forward with hope. I always stand tall.
The metaphor of a blank canvas is not new to me. In fact, I probably have more experience with blank canvases than this entire audience. After all, having been on this earth for 95 years and having been painting since my youth, I would say that I have confronted thousands of blank canvases. But something fascinating has happened to me in witness theater. You see, all these years, painting has been my escape, my way of coping with the past. And here are these 16 students asking me to strip away layers of paint. They, very gently, I must admit, have pressed me to unpaint my artwork and to share what is beneath the surface.
It is 1941, and I can say with absolute certainty that what I imagined where I would be at 18 years of age, I certainly never imagined that I would be here. My childhood in the Prague Jewish community was full of culture, theater, opera, English lessons, music lessons. I loved connecting things. I loved maps and circuitry, and I always dreamed that I would attend the university and study my way to a distinguished profession. And yet, here I am, in Lipa concentration camp, sent here after having been discovered living outside of Prague with false papers.
You know, if we don't die of starvation first, our brains may just die from lack of use. I miss being at school. Why did I ever complain about having to take an exam?
You know, you're right. We are all student-age men in this camp. Between the 300 of us, we must have an infinite amount of specialties.
He's right. Who needs books and papers? We can exchange knowledge just using our minds and voices. I'll tell you what I know, and you tell me what you know.
Okay, Fritz, you go first. You said your father is an accomplished historian and geographer, and from the way I've heard you speak, it sounds like you could draw maps in your sleep. Why don't you start there?
And as much as we could, we would work all day, and then after work fall asleep. We were starving, tortured, but learning was our secret defense. It helped us to create a sense of community. I hope you could say that Lipa was a good camp, in that nobody got killed there. And during my 2 years at slave labor there, I actually amassed a large amount of knowledge. For instance, analytic geometry, even French poetry. It was this arsenal of knowledge and education that helped me later in the camps that were not so civil as Lipa was.
2 years have passed, and the camp was shut down, and I've been shipped here to Theresienstadt. I see many people from my community here. The doctors, the teachers, the musicians, so much life, so much talent, all boiled down to back-breaking work and the struggle to just stay alive. What a pitiful existence. Papa?
Fritz! I thought I would never see you again, son.
Where's Tommy? Is he here too?
Tommy was here, but he was sent to a different location. I'm trying desperately to find out where, but haven't been able to. But see here, Fritz, you must make yourself useful. I'll try to see to it that you have a job that gives you some freedoms and renders you important. You must put all your knowledge to work here in this place. I'm so happy that you're alive.
For 18 months, I worked on the maintenance crew, fixing things all hours, day and night. That allowed me some respite from the crowded barracks that reeked of starvation and misery. But I was not above it all. No, I was very much part of it, because despite the circumstances, Terezin became a community intellectually and morally. We looked like a slum, but we had no crime, no personal hostility, and no violence. We were a community with ethics and even a sense of pride.
It is 1944, and there has been a significant shift here in Theresian. It seems that the Americans have entered the war, and the Nazis are not feeling so invincible anymore. And yet, this wound to their confidence seems to have strengthened their desire to kill Jews, and there seems to be both an influx into Theresian and an increase in deportations out of Theresian. Some families arrive and then leave in the same day. There is constant change in where we are housed and what we are doing, and this causes severe and pervasive anxiety throughout the entire camp. My only sense of peace is in the evenings when I'm with my friends and we are writing poetry and making art. Perhaps if we don't survive, someone may find these pieces of humanity left with our ashes.
Transports, mostly divided by age. Yours will be soon, Fritz. We should say goodbye while we can, just in case.
I will go home straight after the war, Papa. We will meet there.
Just remember, Fritz, everything you need to survive is right in here. Never forget that.
To this day, I have trouble saying goodbye to people, because every goodbye was the last goodbye. I never saw my father again. He was shipped to Auschwitz and was killed there. Later on, I found out that my brother Tommy had been shipped to Treblinka and was murdered there. So was my family, my friends, my neighbors, my community. It was a long list of last goodbyes.
(1945). 4 months have passed in this Dachau subcamp called Kaufering. I was sent here after a short imprisonment in Auschwitz, where I arrived on the Theresian transport. My death feels certain, imminent. Yesterday, I risked my life to drink from a puddle that I spotted on yet another pointless march. This morning, they shot every 10th person in line. I was number 9. I am a walking skeleton, alive only in that my heart is still beating, my brain too cold and hungry to think. And yet, on this particular night, a deafening noise awakens my sleeping brain. Shoved towards the door, and somehow I find a piece of iron on the ground, which I grab, my dormant cleverness springing into action, thinking that I might use it to poke a hole in the door wall so that I'll be able to breathe. But instead, I shove it in the door as the officer slides it shut, leaving the door open slightly. And then I push my friend out. And then I jump too. I am not fully certain if I'm still alive or not, but my fast beating heart tells me I must be. The train gets further and further from me, and all is silent. But for just a moment, I enjoy a sense of freedom.
It did not last very long. Before long, we were caught by a group of young German soldiers who were running away from the front. For some reason, they did not kill us and brought us to a nearby subcamp of Dachau and left us there. I'm not sure how much time passed, but soon after that we were liberated. It was April 27th, 1945.
After many long weeks of rehabilitation, I have finally made my way back to Prague. It looks the same, as if nothing has happened. And the trolley car picks me up, just as it used to, every day on my way home from school. And as I travel to my house, down the same streets, lined with the same houses, and paved with the same stone, it is almost as if I have awakened from a long and terrible nightmare. And yet, Nothing about me is the same. I'm still a young man, and yet I feel older than the earth. I'm still a son, and yet I don't have a father. I'm still an artist, and yet I don't have any instruments. I'm still a Prague Jew, and yet I don't have a community. I'm still a thinker, but if I allow my thoughts to happen, they will take me down a black hole that will be impossible to climb out from. I arrive at my home, a stranger in what is now a strange land. And I hear my father's voice telling me that there is always hope for a better future. I cannot give up now. I am the mind of those who can no longer think. I am the voice of those who can no longer speak. I am the body of those who can no longer act. And for them, I must pick up my brush and paint a brighter future.
It was a long and difficult road ahead. I was damaged, and so was Stella, a friend who also survived and who became my wife.
Fred, your marriage was fraught with baggage from the war, and Stella needed constant companionship. So you became a painter so that you could stay home and keep watch on her fragile mental state. Stella passed away, but in 1982, you met and married Rebecca, and together you raised your son Daniel in a warm home filled with meaningful art and conversation.
Rebecca was my second chance. Meeting her meant a new blank canvas.
Fred, in visiting your home, we have seen your artwork, your studio, and the way you combine colors and textures to create the memories and emotions that are too difficult to speak about. But most importantly, we have seen the passion with which you paint, your honesty and your genuineness and your courage to vulnerably peel back the layers and show us what lies beneath the surface.
It has not been an easy thing to do, but I know how much it means to all of you. And despite how painful it is to share these memories, I know, we all know, that these stories are now part of your life's canvas, that our legacy will live in the art of your lives.
There is a certain art in living. This year, we have learned this many times over.
To live is not simply to be passively alive, but rather to actively seize every single day.
To live is to create meaningful relationships.
To live is to be involved in a community.
To live is to step out of our comfort zones.
To live is to take challenges head on.
To live is to experience pain and to seek comfort.
To live is to make mistakes and then to try again.
To live is to remember the past, but to imagine the future.
To live, is
is
to be both an artist and a blank canvas.
A blank canvas that is open to the painter's brush.
That is open to color.
Open to shadow.
Open to experience.
Open to emotion.
Open to learning.
Open to the art of living.
Bahalon zameret, it's